This doggo is back from FWA, which was nothing less than another exciting, jam-packed weekend, full of great memories and moments throughout the convention. Now, if you have seen my FWA video from last year, from 2023, highlighting every aspect of the con, you know that there was a lot to cover, and high praises were given for this Furry Weekend event. But how did it stack up to this year? Anything change for better or for worse? And did the con continue to listen to their attendees and push on the innovative side of things? Well, let's find out as I highlight and recap the many aspects of this year's FWA and also compare it from last year's event. Held again this year at the Atlanta Marriott Marquis with its adjoining hotels at the Hilton Atlanta downtown and the Hyatt Regency Atlanta in Atlanta, Georgia on May 9th through 12th of 2024. This con was busting at the seams by the time I arrived at the convention on Thursday afternoon. Now, I later found out why. Because FWA saw a record growth in attendance, a staggering 50% increase from last year, going from 10,328 to 15,021 attendees. This makes them now the second largest con in the world, only 526 short of MFF for the #1 spot. Now, this is a staggering amount of growth for any convention, so congrats to the con. Now, this year's theme was Furry University 2, or FU2 for short. You see what they did there? This theme was a callback to the 10-year anniversary of the theme Furry University, which took place on March 20th through 23rd, 2014 at the Westin Peachtree Plaza. Now, the theme this year was a major success. Probably one of the most popular ones I have seen at a convention in some time now. Tons of furs flooded the con store, trying to get their hands on some Furry University merch, one notable one being the super popular Letterman jacket. Now, side note, the Letterman jacket are back up for sale at FWA website, so if you want to grab one, I would do it before it sells out permanently. Now, some notable things that happened during this year included the furry takeover at the Georgia Aquarium for all attendees. Secondly, their new charity partner for this year, Lost and Found Youth, a nonprofit whose goal is to end homelessness for the LGBTQ+ youth, which I must note, we raised another staggering $100,000 for charity. Woo! And the Marriott making a furry treat bowl, which, yes, it does come in a dog bowl. However, they did charge $30 US, including tax and tip, so yeah, it was a little bit expensive. And lastly, their guest of honor was Wicked Insignia, an Australian furrer from Melbourne who is a visual dev artist and art director who worked on such notable titles as Valorant, League of Legends, Arc 2, AR and VR projects, and Avatar 2. Traveling over to the con this year, there wasn't much change from the previous years, with the exception of the Atlanta Airport MARTA station, which was currently undergoing renovations. $55 million worth to be exact. So if you wanted to take the MARTA, you needed to take a bus operated by them to the next station over, which put an additional 30+ minutes to your travel time. Now, that's not the best if you have lots of luggage, to be honest. Otherwise, as always, you can take an Uber or Lyft, which I used to get to the hotel myself. Now, there are plenty of parking spaces in and around the con, same as last year for those that are driving to it. However, I must quickly address the carjacking and breaking in that went on this year. It was rampant. One for noting, at the end of the con, I come out to my car and I see this. The cops even said 30 cars were broken into on Friday alone. From another furrer wrote, okay, so my car was stolen in FWA. It was broken into and swiped to be used as a getaway car in a larger crime in downtown Atlanta. And it was then reclaimed by police and is now back in my custody. I personally know some people that had their car broken into this year as well, so it's something to strongly think about for next year if you're driving down to the con. Maybe FWA can do something for next year to mitigate the situation, like negotiate rates in some parking garage where they have on-site guards and surveillance. Let's start talking very briefly about the insights into the hotel, to recap what I said in last year's video. Now, for those that may remember, the Marriott Marquis is the second largest atrium in the world, with 52 floors and 1,663 rooms. So looking all the way up from the ground or from the top down, it can give you some vertigo. Also, the hotel was used in the movie The Hunger Games and the TV series Loki. Now, being the second largest atrium sets the stage for the lobby being amazing for the con, providing a lot of space to converse with friends and fursuits to run around the area more easily. I will say it does get super busy, so there are times where you must push yourself through to navigate around the space. But the energy gathered around the lobby is electrifying. It can last up until 4 a.m., sometimes even later. Now, what also makes this con so awesome and accommodating is that the main hotel is shared and attached to both the Hilton and the Hyatt via Skybridge. It makes the walk to either hotel mere minutes, as opposed to the long and annoying walkthrough experience at the MFF Skybridge. So staying at any 3 of these hotels is great and lets you stay involved with all con activities, especially since parts of the con are also held in the Hilton and the Hyatt. And I will definitely go into more details about this later on in the video. The amenities and room options were thoroughly discussed in my video from last year, which really hasn't changed. But I do want to note my experience in a different room I tried this year, which was the smaller of the larger suites called the Parlor Suite. Now, honestly, I wasn't too happy with the room given the cost. It said 1 king or double Murphy bed, and that Murphy bed felt more like a twin to me. So sleeping in a small bed with someone made for tight quarters. And you could easily fit a king in the room, so I don't really know why they didn't do that to begin with. Also, the pull-out bed was actually bigger than the main bed, which was funny, but not in a good way. And for $400 a night, I would expect a king bed. So otherwise, the space was spread out, leaving ample room to stretch out. But if you want a nicer suite, I would advocate for other suites rather than the parlor one. So last year I talked about how the main hotel waited until 4 p.m. to open up all check-in for their hotel rooms, which caused a massive lineup that could span over an hour. Well, luckily this year they had a better plan in mind and opened up check-in for the entirety of the day. So the hotel staff also had every front desk employee on hand to check everyone in. So even though the line was really large, I got in and out in around roughly 20 minutes. But moving on to last year's elevator con, which was absolutely out of hand at the main hotel since there was no staff, con, or hotel manning the elevators. The hope was this year that they would address the issue. Well, they partially did, having what looked like a third-party staffing company manning the elevators, but only at certain times during the day and not for every day of the con. It did help a bit with the long wait times and lines, but since it wasn't fully consistent, elevators devolved back into chaos, having attendees ride down to go up and take any means necessary to ride them. But I know that the unexpected 50% increase in attendance really didn't help, so personally, the elevators could have been way worse in my opinion. Luckily for me, I was on the 11th floor, so I could take any elevator I wanted back into my room. Side note, what didn't go so well was the Hilton couldn't handle the increased attendance nor had proper management in place for their elevators. It was an absolute nightmare for attendees. It got so bad that my friends just gave up getting into the rooms and sat at the bar at the main hotel. I waited in the elevator line once, and that was all it took for me not to do it again at the Hilton. It's something to think about if they don't address this for next year. The Hyatt, however, was fine from what I saw throughout the entirety of the weekend. As I mentioned strongly in last year's video on FWA, food and drinks were plentiful, making the con one of my tops when it comes to procuring sustenance. So, are you hungry for some furry-friendly eats? Well, look no further than the hub at the Peachtree Center. Just a hot skip and jump away from the Marriott via the Skybridge. With a smorgasbord of delicious dining options to choose from, your taste buds are in for a treat. Also, even though Google says that they're not open during the weekend, they 100% are for the con, so you and your friends could obtain food all the way up to 7 p.m. every day. Though it does suck that it's not open later, and I will note that all food options are not open during the weekend, though many are. Otherwise, there are plenty of places within walking distance or a short Uber ride like Gus's Famous Chicken and E Ramen, which I have to say that the ramen was so freaking delicious, it comes highly recommended. Again, a great con for getting food so you will not go hungry. And you can check more of the food and drink options that I didn't talk about here on my last video. Now moving on to events during the con, something has changed this year for one of them, and that was the Dealer's Den and Artist Alley. This year they were placed in the Hilton rather than the Hyatt where they were last year. And the reason is we found out that the Hyatt was double booked for a chess tournament happening at the same weekend. So FWA had to move everything over to the Hilton. Now honestly, this was not a good setup for a couple reasons. For one, it caused a substantial amount of traffic issues, making the lines confusing and clogging up all areas of the hotel and skybridge. And it made it extra hard for attendees to get into the space and attendees getting back into their hotel room. Secondly, the layout wasn't great, with a big square open space in the middle of everything. You had to funnel like playing that Lemmings game, moving in only certain directions to get around. And inside the dealer's den space itself, it was fine, but a tad bit less open than last year. Now, the dealer's den in Arlos Alley also repeat traffic several times, prompting FWA to limit access. Unfortunately, this also indirectly created multiple accounts of attendees being yelled at and for trying to get back into their rooms and using accessibility areas that needed it, because they were mistaken for cutting in line. Let's just pray that they move back to the Hyatt next year, which was a great space for the event. Outside the dealer's den in Artist Alley, events overall were not only great this year, but better than last year. Every aspect of them leveled up in my opinion. So starting with the Fursuit dance competition in Battle Zoo, the talent was off the chain in both events, with a record number of applications. The dance comp, for example, I heard applications were around 50 to 80 plus for singles and 20 plus for groups. The sheer caliber of both events was something to behold. Without fail, the Moonlight Festival was again a highlight and main attraction for the con, as it was last year. More live performances and demos, great DJs, and vendors offering amazing wares. I was a vendor at this event with a company that me and my business partner run, and we had a very fun and successful night. The energy was so positive, and everyone looked great in their attire. It was quite the popular 18+ event. Also, it was a smart move this year to have the 18+ tagging in the attendance wristband instead of a separate one that you had to get later on. It made the process of getting into the event much easier and a bit faster. Though, since it was so popular, like everyone went to it, the lines were always long. Another amazing event that I had the pleasure of attending this year and last is the Furality VR experience. Now seriously, this is always a joy going to this event at the con. The new things they added this year was the hangout time with their mascot Finn. Using a high-res screen with a camera and cool interactive lights on the side, you could talk to and interact with Finn. Honestly, it was a highlight for many. And another new thing was the Moonlight Chill, where you could all chill out for a bit while the Moonlight Festival was going on. And of course, they had the well-known portal where you could chat and interact with all the amazing bees in VR in real time. Now lastly, I must mention that the VR chat meetup was insane. Even bigger than last year, with groups you could join up with and sign their boards based on who you wanted to represent. The music scene, like holy hell. I have to give props to FWA for levering up even more this year in this area. The music scene was on fire, period. We had CK9C, Whispers, the Mystery Skulls, and the Living Tombstones live concerts. We had amazing DJs and dances, with some DJs coming from overseas just to surprise perform for the con like Loprov. And we had amazing musical diversity and influences like Magic Records holding DigiFest FWA. And of course, don't forget the silent disco for a different and fun musical experience in the lobby. And much, much more. If you love music, you will love this con. Now, I won't be getting into detail with this, but this did level up from last year. And I want others to be mindful that some actions you participate in, or you think is a good idea, especially in public, can have dire consequences, not only for you, but risking the con as a whole. Some events were setting off fire in the bathroom, parkouring down the hotel floors, and attacking someone while on substances, to name a few. And unfortunately, some sadder state of affairs happened, like the carjacking I mentioned earlier in the video, and one instance of an individual trying to steal someone off in a threatening way. And these are not all of them. I just want to make sure you as a viewer and potential future con goers are aware of this, because as a community, we need to be smart if we want to continue to create a fun and safe environment for everyone in our community and have cons at these big hotels. Otherwise, we can run the risk of getting them shut down or moved to less accommodating spaces. But we really don't want to go into some level of GTA here, right? In conclusion, FWA was better than last year, a feat in itself considering how amazing it was the previous year. They continue to push the boundaries and are willing to innovate and adapt to make this con fun and relevant to the needs and wants of our community today. And even with the 50% increase in attendance this year, it still felt like a balanced, well-directed con. So a nice organized chaos, if you will. which is impressive and a vibe I enjoy throughout the entire weekend. Now, I won't be surprised if they grow even bigger and better next year. I just hope they continue to listen to their attendees and make changes that are needed, so to create an overall amazing experience for all. I'll say it again, probably still one, if not the best cons in the US to date, one I highly recommend to anyone. Thank you all for watching my recap on this year's FWA. If you'd like to get even more details on this particular convention, I highly recommend you check out my last year's video that dives a bit more into each subject. Also, please leave a comment and let me know what you think of this video and your thoughts on the con if you attended this year, both years, and in the past. And as always, don't forget to hit that like, follow, subscribe, for it greatly helps me and my channel and supports future videos. Till next time, stay awesome.